Hello and welcome back. In this lesson, we'll explore the different names for drugs, how they're categorized, who names them, and some related prescribing practices. Let's start with the different types of drug names. First, we have the trade name of a drug. This is also known as a brand or proprietary name. It's a name chosen by the manufacturer and is protected by copyright. An example of this is Mevacor, a cholesterol lowering drug. Next, we have the generic name, which is known as the non-proprietary or official name. This is a simple standardized name assigned to a drug by the United States Adopted Name Council. The generic name for Mevacor is lovastatin. Then we have the chemical name. This is complex, systemic, name that describes the chemical structure of the drug. Chemical names can be quite lengthy, as you can see here. Don't worry, I'm not going to pronounce the chemical name and you won't have to try either. MAs aren't expected to call drugs by their chemical name. Thank goodness, right? Finally, Mevacor is an antilipemic drug. That's its category. This category lets us know that it lowers lipid in the blood. And as mentioned, Mevacor specifically lowers cholesterol in the blood. You'll find that drugs are typically categorized by their action on the body, general therapeutic effect, or by the body system they affect. I want to touch on the role of the United States Adopted Names Council next. The USAN is responsible for assigning generic names to new drugs. These names are non proprietary, meaning they do not belong to any one manufacturer. This generic name is considered the drug official name in the US. Manufacturers select the trade name for their drug and is protected by copyright and patent. When a new drug enters the market, the manufacturer has a patent on the drug for 17 years. During those 17 years, no other manufacturer can make or sell the drug. Once the patent expires, any manufacturer can sell the drug under the generic name or a different trade name. But the original manufacturer is the only one allowed to use a drug's original trade name. Mevacor is also known by the brand name of Altoprev. The drug is still lovastatin, but it is extended version produced by a different manufacturer. Another example is Tylenol, whose generic name is acetaminophen. It was marketed and branded as Tylenol, but other companies began producing the drug when the partner ran out. Today, you can still buy it as Tylenol, but also as Walgreens pain reliever, HEB pain relief, or Equate pain reliever. Now, let's talk about prescribing practices. Licensed practitioners can prescribe drugs by their generic or trade names. Because generic drugs are generally less expensive, most practitioners try to prescribe those if possible. Many states allow pharmacists to substitute a generic drug for a trade name drug unless the practitioner specifies otherwise. In fact, most health insurance prescription plans require the substitution of generic drug for trade name drugs, unless otherwise specified by the licensed practitioner. Frequently, these plans also require the pharmacy to charge a higher copay amount for trade name drugs than the generic drugs. What's the difference, you ask? Think of it in terms of apple pie recipes. One family may make apple pie with allspice, while another may use nutmeg and ginger instead. The basic components are the same: apples, crust, and butter, but some of the other additives are slightly different from one recipe to another. It is the same way with prescription medications. The only trouble is when patients react poorly to the other stuff in the medicine. For instance, they might be allergic to allspice, so they can still have apple pie if it doesn't have the stuff they are allergic to in it. If a patient has a bad reaction to the generic version of a medication, the provider will have to write brand name only on the prescription to ensure that the generic substitution doesn't cause a negative reaction to the patient. Okay, class, we've covered how drugs are named and categorized, the role of the USAN Council in assigning generic names, and a bit of prescribing practices. You can move forward with your lesson knowing that these concepts will help you along the way. Who would have thought that drugs names would impact what is selected by practitioners and the cost effectiveness of patient care?